we were over there, they're hiding bombs in trash bags or dead animals. They'd have dogs on the side of the road. They'd cut them open and literally put the bomb in the dog. Like, you know, they were lined up, and we just started taking strafing fire from PKM machine guns. And that was my first experience. Day one, you know, pretty much the first day we were out doing our own patrols. And when I say gone, I mean like pink mist. Like, he was gone. We tried to find something so we could like send something back. And 5 years ago, I committed suicide.
Welcome back to Blue Steel. We are today here with Nick Zabik, who's from the 3-9 Marines. He's going to tell us a lot about his experiences in Iraq and especially in Afghanistan and afterwards. So give us your background. How did you wind up in the Marine Corps in the first place?
Oh, it's kind of like one of your, what you hear. So like in high school, I played sports. I was super athletic, you know, so football was...
Gee, I never would have guessed looking at you.
Yeah, so football was like my main thing, but then we had like a weightlifting team. So I'm originally from Florida. I grew up in Florida. So down there we have like powerlifting team. And then we had track and field. So I pretty much did all year, played sports. I was doing really well in football, played middle linebacker. And then senior year, we were in the playoffs. We had like 3 games left. And I ended up getting chop blocked and tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus. Yeah. So I lost the scholarship that I was looking at for UF to go to University of Florida. So most of my family has served at some point. So like my uncle was Special Forces in the Army. My aunt was in the Army. I got a couple of great uncles that were Marines. Most of them were Navy. Both my grandpa on my mom's side and then my grandpa on my dad's side were both Navy. So it was like one of those things that I always thought about. But obviously at that age I was like, oh, football, NFL, let's go. And so when that happened, you know, I just kind of recollected myself, and I was always into like becoming a sniper, Special Forces, SEALs, something like that. So I went to the recruiter's office with a couple of my buddies. We went to high school together, and they were both in the Marine Corps office. And I was like, I don't know, I really want to be a SEAL. You know what I mean? Let's go over to the Navy office. So I go over to the Navy office, and they sign me up. And they, not like sign me up, but they have like a tryout in order to see if you can even sign up for that contract to go straight to SEALs.
Yeah,
basically.
I remember going to that myself.
Right. So I went to the test out, and I passed it all like perfectly, except for the swim. Being a bigger guy, I was like 1.5 minutes short on the swim. So I did the distance, but I couldn't do it. So they're like, hey, you can come back. We're going to do another one in like 2 months. And I'm like, And then my buddies were at the Marine Corps office. They kept nagging me. So I finally went over there and ended up joining the Marine Corps. Which is funny though, because my best friend Greg, he ended up going to the Army, and he was the one that was like, he's like,
one trying to get you in the Marine Corps.
He's like, come on, let's all do the buddy program together. So me and my buddy Kevin ended up doing the buddy program. He ended up going to the Army. Main reason was because he had an injury, and the Marine Corps was super strict at the time about, you know, you had to get a med waiver. So luckily, I waited like, I think it was almost a year, because I had to get a med waiver for my knee from the football injury, and then I went in. And then that was back in 2008. And then I went in as an 03, went to boot camp. And then after that, I went to SOI in North Carolina at Geiger. And then, so the way they do it, it's like a 2-month school. First is just learn all the basics of 03 stuff, of infantry stuff. And then you kind of get split off into your specialty. That's how the Marine Corps does it. So you'll either, you know, go 0341, become mortarman, machine gunner. They had anti-tank back then, and assaultman. So they were like, oh, you're a bigger guy. Yeah, here's a machine gun.
Right, of course.
I mean, that was one of the ones I wanted anyways, out of all the ones you got to pick out of. But yeah, they were just like, here you go. You look like you can carry a big gun. And then we were getting close to graduation from SOI, and they let us do like a wish list for like duty stations. So I put Hawaii first, and then North Carolina, and then San Diego. And then they come to us like a week before graduation. I'm all excited. They're like, hey, you're going to Hawaii. I'm like, yes, man, I'm going to Hawaii, you know. And then everything started kicking off with, you know, Afghanistan and stuff. And Iraq was kind of still going, you know, more towards the end, but it was still going. And literally like I think it was 3 days, if I remember correctly, they came out and they're like, hey, there's this unit, 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines, just stood up. So 3U9 is like a special battalion in the Marine Corps that only gets stood up during wartime. So the last time they had actually been stood up was actually in Vietnam.
Okay.
So they'd been shut down this whole time. So they just opened it back up, and they're like, hey, they need bodies. You're going to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, not Hawaii anymore. And I was like, oh, man. So at the time, I was like super kind of down about it because I was, man, I really want to go get stationed in Hawaii, you know, Pearl Harbor and all that.
Nice place.
Right. So they send us over there, and they literally, like, we're talking like bare bones at the time. Like, there wasn't many people in the unit. They were just pulling people, and all the new boot drops that were coming out of boot camp were getting sent over there. So, like, this was like a fresh unit, not many guys that had actually been over yet. And then they started pulling some senior guys, you know, corporals and sergeants and staff sergeants and stuff over from other units that were returning from Iraq. So, say the least, we got hazed a lot because we were boots and they were fresh back from, you know, Iraq. And it's like, oh, and you know, they're talking all their shit like, oh, you ain't seen nothing, da 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 da. Well, we were supposed to have like a year workup before we were supposed to get sent anywhere because it's a fresh, brand new unit. It was like 3 months later. They're like, hey, we got moved up. They need us over there. We're going to Iraq. I'm like, whoa, okay. So we get sent over there to Ubaidi, and it ended up being a short deployment, but we ended up, which I haven't heard many people that have ever done this, but they basically like took us and we swapped out with the Army.
Huh, a Marine unit swapping for an Army unit? I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it was really weird. And then the way they did it was weird too. But yeah, so they literally, and it was funny though, because as we're swapping out, as the units are swapping out, right, the Army guy's like, my guys aren't going to live in these conditions. And we're like over there like, what, dude? Are you kidding me? I've been living in this for 4 months. And he's like, these conditions aren't sat for my soldiers. And I'm like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah, right. Good luck on that one.
Yeah, so a lot of the time we were in Iraq, it was in 2009, so like it was calming down some. We took some fire, didn't really get too many IEDs, but a lot of it was, while I was over there, we were just patrolling around the Syrian border, keeping the border protected, and training the Iraqi police. That's a lot of what we did over there. And then when we came back from there, almost the same thing happened. We got worked up for Afghanistan, and we were going through the whole workup, and I mean, it was probably like 6-month turnaround time, and then we were back over. They sent us over there, and that was probably where everything that really has affected me, like, was.
Tell me about, first of all, where you were in Afghanistan.
Okay, so it's called Marja, Afghanistan. It's in the Helmand Province, which is down, I want to say, the southeast towards the Pakistani border. So that's where a lot of them come over from Pakistan into the country. And so it's a very dangerous area, and they're like those people down there. It's very, so like, if you're not in Kabul, like the area of Afghanistan, the major
capital,
the capital of it, anything outside of there, it's very rural, like all farm. Most of what we were in was all poppy fields. Like, it was all heroin production and fields for like days. Like, the flowers are beautiful, but it's just crazy to see.
I've been to the equivalent place in Thailand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so it's like a crazy situation because you're like in this, it's pretty beautiful. And then we got over there, I think it was right before Christmas, and we were switching out with the unit that was already there. And they pretty much were like, hey, this area is super hot. They've learned like the way we do things, so like, you guys got to change it up. And then we literally, I think Christmas Day was our first day out on our own. Because like, usually you do a transition period with the unit before, so they'll take some of your guys out with their guys, and they'll kind of show you the routes that they've been taking, or whatever areas are the hot areas, and which ones, you know, to avoid or just be aware of when you're in that area. And then I'm pretty sure it was Christmas Day was our first, like, on our own. You know what I mean? Like, that unit got pulled out, we're over there. So we're going out, and we were going out east. I'm trying to remember, but there was this guy that came up to us. It was like our first experience. So this guy comes up to us and he's like, hey, there's a weapons cache. You know, he's talking to our interpreter, and he's like, hey, there's a weapons cache over here in this mosque. And they're like, oh, okay. So our lieutenant's like, oh, well, let's go check this mosque out. Well, come to find out, this guy was setting us up for an ambush, of course. So we start heading north over to this mosque, and we're like all lined up. You know what I mean? We're lined up, and we just start taking strafing fire from PKM machine guns. And that was my first experience. Day one, you know, pretty much the first day we were out doing our own patrols. And it was pretty much a daily thing there. They were pretty heavily in that area. So we did some major push-ops while we were there, where we would push further east and try to set up new FOBs, forward operating bases. So I think the first one we did, we pushed to Wakil Wazir. And I actually still on Google Maps, I have it tagged still. You can still kind of see remnants of the base. It's kind of cool, even though that was back in 2010. But we held there for like 2 or 3 months, and we pulled a couple operations that were like really big battalion operations. And I think one of the ones that stuck the most, I lost my buddy Sergeant Callahan and PFC Sierra Mataro, and they're in what's called their MATVs. So they're in the main vehicles, and they were like on the road, you know what I mean, pushing. We had engineers that ended up getting sent over us to be attached to us that were supposed to sweep the roads for mines and everything like that. And then we were kind of like parallel on the sides, pushing into this village that was known for housing a lot of the Taliban over there. So we were going to push through, look for weapons, ID making materials, all that stuff, because they're going to town over there. Like every day we were finding multiples. So we're pushing out, and somewhere along the line, the MATVs were on the road, and we started taking some fire, little pop shots here and here. So nothing serious yet. And then we got to this point, and the engineers were sweeping the road. So like, you know, there was some, after the incident happened, you know, people were mad at people, blah, 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 blah. But mainly what happened was there was a V-bid in the road that was like massive. So it was like a pressure plate, but it was made for a vehicle. So everyone walking over it was fine. They all walked over it. Everyone walked over it. They swept it. So it had to have been pretty deep from what we could figure out afterwards, because the crater was pretty massive. But basically the vehicle hit it. And even with the mine, it had a mine roller on the front, which is like a big thing they put on the front so that if you do happen to hit a pressure plate like that, it'll blow the mine roller, not the vehicle. So I don't know if the mine roller wasn't heavy enough either. Like this is what I mean by like they were intelligent, you know what I mean? Like they watched what we did and they would adapt to that. So the MATV, they have or the MRAPs. I'm trying to remember if it was an MRAP or MATV. They're a little different. It might have, I think it was an MRAP actually, because they had a V on the bottom of the hole that was supposed to take blasts
and deflect it sideways.
Oh, and it literally, this V-bid was that big. It just blew the vehicle. Yeah, blew it up. The guy in the turret got sent like, I don't even remember how far, but he got blown out the top with the turret. Like the turret came with, like this is how big the IED was, and he flew. And then they all went over. I just remember after the blast, I got knocked out for a second. I don't even know how long I was out. And then I get up and we're just taking massive amounts of fire.
How far were you from the blast?
I was probably about 100 yards to the right.
Wow, and it was still enough to knock you out.
Oh man, yeah. It was a big one. And then we were probably, I don't know, that's one of those situations where it was difficult, because it's like you got to keep pushing. You got to keep pushing. You can't worry about that. You know, you got the guys over there that are going to worry about it, but you got to keep going on, especially with the amount of fire we were taking. So we kept pushing through. And then a couple other guys, one of our, we had the Afghan army with us too, that was with us. And like they literally were like watching our tactics. So like, they would have these berms, you know what I mean? And there was wadis, which were like giant ditches, basically for irrigation. So the berm would be along the wadi, you know what I mean? So like they would watch us and we'd plant behind them, kind of get a little bit of defilade. And so one of the ANA, you know, had learned from us, like, okay, well, I'm going to go get in position to shoot back. Well, they had learned that, so they started putting IEDs in that, and he literally jumped on it and just gone. And when I say gone, I mean like pink mist. Like he was gone. We tried to find something so we could like send something back, and it was just
nothing to send.
There was nothing to send. So that was one of the biggest operations that really affected me, like especially since then.
I can easily believe that. What was your role during that operation?
I was still a machine gunner at that time. So yeah, we were just pushing through. We were supposed to be clearing out all the like I said, looking for weapons caches and stuff like that. And that operation got pretty crazy. At that point, it was more of like, we need to just get this area cleared out and survive, and then we can look later, come back and look through later. But then there was another operation a few months later that really stuck with me too. We were going through, it was another clearing op. Same thing, well, similar thing. Basically, we had got intel on an IED maker's house, or where he was supposed to be located, or housing a bunch of materials. So we had planned that out, and it was another large, I don't remember if it was battalion or company op that we went on. I think it was just a company op. But it was basically, we had 3 squads, and you had a squad in Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. That's the way we determined the lanes. And the way they had built these little, these are like mud houses that they made.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're not like actual, so, but the way they had set them out in this farm area was pretty aligned, you know what I mean? So you had a house here, 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 house here. So, first had Alpha, second had Bravo, third had Charlie, and we were just going through, we were going to clear them until we found whatever we needed to find. Well, we're pushing through, cleared out the whole first area. We're still in line. We get up to the second group of houses, and I was in the unit. We found the ID maker's house. So we're running through, right? We start finding all these materials, find a lot of drugs too, which I'm assuming he was using probably to fund his stuff.
Also, the suicide vest people are stoned out of their gourds.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that guy, there's lots of drugs. I mean, I have a picture of me holding like a hay bale, basically, of like marijuana. And it was like a room, probably this size, that was just like stacked. But then we found a bunch of other materials. So then they were they seen a guy out walking, and they pulled him in and had the interpreter talk to him. And while this is all going on, right, we're doing our job, we're so focused on everything going on, they're trying to get on comms to get to the other units and just tell them to hold in place, because like we clearly have found that this is the ID maker facility, so we know that this area is basically rigged. So we get a hold of the first squad, we told them to hold, and then we were trying to get a hold of third squad, because they had just finished their building, so they knew we were stuck because we had found stuff and we were searching. And so, like, I wish I had a graph I could show, but then the next house for us, so I was a point man usually, always, just because that was the way I felt about my brothers, and I was like, hey, if something's gonna happen, I'm gonna take it. So we were supposed to go up to the next row of houses once we finished clearing this, right? Well, we were trying to tell everyone to hold because we found everything. Well, third squad was like, hey, we're just gonna push up and search your building, so that by the time we're going to search your building and then go over and search our building, that way by the time you guys are done, we can just get back online and move on to the next ones. Well, before any of that could even happen, my buddy Maston, he was point for third, and he ended up going through the doorway I was supposed to go through and getting blown up. So that one really, stuck with me.
I bet it
it's
does.
like one of those situations where it's like, that was my...
Well, not only a brother, but it was also...
it was
my
yours. Brother. Yeah, it's my brother, but it's like, that was, in my head, that was supposed to be my doorway, and it's like, you don't know what happened. Maybe I would have found it, and even if I didn't find it, I'd rather have happened to me than to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So luckily, though, he survived. He lost both his legs, though. He's still alive. He's still doing all right as far as I know. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but yeah, so those are like the 2 major incidents that like really affected me from the military. I'll just start with I'm blessed to be here today, because when I first got out, it was like one of these, it's like a shockwave almost. I can't even explain it, because I felt fine for a while. Like, we got back from Afghanistan, and then I got out in like 2013, May of 13, and I was married at the time, and then I got out, moved back to Florida, and I don't think it really hit me like right away. I think it was probably at least 5 or 6 months later before I started experiencing PTSD. And then I still didn't even know that was PTSD. I just started having issues like insomnia and just high anxiety when I was out in public, and just having like just a lot of issues, you know what I mean, that correlated to that. And I didn't put two and two together for probably 2 years. I just knew I felt not myself, and I knew that I felt like super, I don't know, alienated. I don't know if that's the right word, but like just, I tried to get a job, tried to do this, couldn't hold a job because I just felt like I couldn't be around those people. Like they just didn't. That's like another thing too, not to get off another segue, but just when you have that camaraderie, that brotherhood, like everyone's work ethic and everyone's mentality is so similar, and like their drive is so high, and they're, you know, almost, you want to say alpha, but like perfectionists in a sense, because that's the way they train us too. So it's hard when you get back to regular society to try to blend into that.
Well, also with the brotherhood what's driving that is the I won't let my brothers down.
Right. Right. So you get out in public, and that is definitely not a thing, especially nowadays. It's very, everyone's for themselves. So we ended up getting divorced, to say the least, and then I went through struggles for, years. I started drinking more. You know, at first it was just to like go out and have fun. And then you realize after a while that it was more of, no, it wasn't for fun. You know, that was me trying to, that was my body telling me, hey, we need, trying to cope with all the physical and mental pain. And then it got worse and progressively worse. And then this is kind of all over the place, but I tried to get some help, from the VA, and like they were just super, I went, when I first got out, and try to get disability or whatever and see a doctor for, to figure out what was going on. Because at first, like I said, I didn't realize it was PTSD. I was just like, hey, I can't sleep, I have anxiety, blah, blah, blah. So they put me on all these meds. Well, at the time, I thought the meds were helping. In the long run, I realized it didn't. It made me way worse, made me numb. I had no emotions.
Right.
And I love to work out. Like, that's one thing I've always held strong to, even before the military. So I held on to that, but like it got to the point where I stopped doing that even because I just had no drive anymore and no like passion for life. I just literally was like, it's hard because between the meds and just the way I was feeling, and then on top of that, on a physical aspect, those meds they were giving me, no matter how clean I was eating or how much I was working out, I was still putting on tons of weight. And like, so it made me feel even worse because now not only mentally am I bad, now physically I'm not, like, I don't like how I look. And like, this is not me. I'm a Marine, you know what I mean?
I'm not supposed to look like
this. Like, this is not good. So it just kind of kept going down. And then I got heavily addicted to the painkillers and, Xanax, and started using those more than I should have to cope, to try to feel good, I guess you could say. And it just kept going down and down and down. And I finally got to the point where about 5 years ago, I committed suicide. And there was a couple times before that I got close. I literally was like very close. Like one time I was sitting on the beach. This was probably a year after my divorce. In like 2014, I was sitting on the beach and I had my gun and I sat there and I was watching the tide come in, and it was like, it was like 11:30 at night. And I was just sitting there kind of like arguing with God. I'm like, all right, God, if I'm supposed to be here, man, why am I going through all this? What is the purpose of this? And I basically kind of challenged him and was like, hey, I was like, if no one shows up for me by midnight, or if you don't basically save me or make something happen by midnight, I'm gonna do it. And I swear on my life, this is the first time, out of nowhere, I hear someone coming down the beach yelling my name, and it was like literally like 11:55. And I'm like, there ain't no way. And I kept quiet. I'm like, nope, I want to do this. Like, that was the mindset I was in. I'm like, no, I want to do this. So I hear him calling my name. I'm not responding. So two of my buddies ended up, I guess, they knew I wasn't answering my phone. So they started looking for me, and they started going to places that they knew that I would normally go, like when I was having a bad day. And they ended up finding me there. So then I carried on for a little bit longer, but I finally got to that point about, it was 5 years ago. In November, it'll be 5 years ago that I intentionally overdosed. Crazy story, from what I was told. I don't really remember much, but I went and basically got a bunch of drugs and like just took them all. And I went and I had a girlfriend at the time Well, I went back to our apartment, but I parked on the other side of the apartment complex because I didn't want her to find me. And I literally sat there in our car. I just kept taking as many as I could before I passed out. And then, I guess once it kicked in, I died. And I keeled over the steering wheel. And I guess the car wasn't in park. I swear it was in park. So this is like another God story for me. And the car rolled into another car in the parking lot. Didn't do any damage, but it just kind of rolled up against another one. Well, from everything I was told, these two ladies were coming out of their apartment to go to the mailbox to get their mail, and they just both happened to be ER nurses that just got off shift.
Just happened.
Just happened to be two ER nurses that just got off shift. And they come over, and obviously she's seen I was blue in the lips and everything, so they got me out of the car and started CPR right away. And she said that she didn't even know how long I had already been done at that point, but she said they did CPR for like a good 10 to 11 minutes before the ambulance got there. So then loaded me up in the ambulance. Well, this time I had a God experience. I definitely, I was there, and I met him, and it was just a this is why I'm such a strong believer. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that there's a God, because he literally came to me. And it's funny because it's like now I understand what people say when they said they see a bright light. It's not a bright light. He's just not in a human form, and it's just an energy that's so powerful that you can't really look directly at it because it's just so bright from the energy it's putting off. And then I feel that I had a grandmother, my Nana, I called her. That was my mom's mom that had passed away like a year before, and she was there. And it was crazy because she didn't say anything to me, but I felt like God had her there just to show me where I was. So I knew yeah, this is where you are. And I just remember basically when you speak, it's like, what do you call it? It's in your head. You know what I mean? There was no verbal words, but I could hear what he was saying to me, and then he could hear me just through what I was thinking. And it was crazy because I was telling him I don't want to go back to that pain and that misery, and I felt when I got to heaven or wherever that was that I was seeing him, I just felt everything had been taken off my shoulders. Everything I was feeling, all that misery, that pain, that loneliness, it was like taking the best drug you've ever taken times 10 million. I just
and
felt,
no judgment.
No judgment, and I felt so amazing. And I was like, I don't want to go back. And I just remember till this day. He literally said to me, because he said, you got to go back. And then I said, why? I said, what's my mission? Because that's just how I am.
Of course.
Give me a mission, I will go back and do it.
Yep.
But I want to know what I'm to do. And I remember being upset because he just said, he's like, you've touched so many people's lives you don't even know, and you're going to touch so many more. And I woke up in the ambulance just like that. And I remember waking up in the ambulance, and I was like, that's not enough. I need to know more. That's not specific. You know what I mean? Give me a mission, but I want specifics here. So I woke up in the ambulance, and this story gets crazier because, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit, right? I'm going to leave it there and we'll backtrack. So when I got out, I tried going to school. I got my EMT license, and I went to paramedic school, and I was doing that, and I was working on the ambulance at the time. Well, I ended up not really liking it, especially with PTSD. I realized I was making it worse. So I ended up, not finishing paramedic school. And then I went back doing construction. That being said, we'll go back to when I wake up in the ambulance. Wake up in the ambulance, and there's a girl there. That's my paramedic. And she's like, hey, Nick. I'm like, oh, hi. And she's like, you remember me? And I'm still kind of messed up from the drugs and everything. And I'm trying to look at her, and she's like, oh, she's like, you remember? She's like, we went to school. And I was like, oh. So literally, this is a girl I went to school with. You know what I mean? So
wow.
I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow. And she goes, well, since I know you're going to understand, what I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to tell you straightforward. She's like, you shouldn't be here right now. She's like, you were dead for over 10 minutes. Wow. She's like, and even if you were alive, you should have brain damage. She's like, so the fact that you're sitting here having a conversation with me right now is totally impossible. She's like, so we're taking you to the hospital. She's like, I gave you enough Narcan for 6 grown adults. And she's like, and she's like, so I don't know how much you took of whatever you took. She's like, but it must have been a lot. She's like, you're lucky to be alive. And then when they took me to the hospital, and they monitored me because she said that the Narcan could wear off and you can overdose again. So they just brought me there and monitored me. And then they ended up, have me go over to psych to see the doctor, of course, and then they sent me back to the VA, and they just let me go home.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that being said, when I woke up from that experience after, everything, after being in the hospital, and then I had to stay in the psych ward or whatever for like, I think it was supposed to be 72 hours because it's like a Baker Act or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the doc in the hospital ended up letting me go just because he said, if you contact your therapist over at the VA and you promise me you'll leave here and go straight to see him, he's like, I don't think you need to be here more than 24 hours. But when I woke up and I was sitting there, it was like God had wiped everything clean. Like I didn't feel, like I still have symptoms of PTSD, but it's just hard to explain the majority of what I feel like was keeping me from being who I'm supposed to be was let go of. And from that time on, I've literally, I can't even tell you, like, you could talk to people in my life that know me. Just in the past 5 years, I've changed exponentially for the better. And that's just, I say that because I know there's a lot of veterans out there that are going through that exact same thing. And I've had brothers just recently that have taken their lives. And it's like, it's not over, and you can definitely move on, and there's definitely greener pastures. Like, it'll never go away completely, but there's definitely people out there that have been through it that can help you learn how to cope with it. And then for me, obviously, God's one of the biggest ones. And I'm not saying religion, like you have to go to church and stuff, but just generally having a relationship with God. So if anyone's feeling that way, you need to reach out. That's the first step, because I feel like that was probably something that's hard for a lot of military guys too, because like I know when I was in my generation, it was like you don't want to look weak, like admitting,
and Marines.
Oh, especially Marines,
Yeah.
but admitting you have PTSD is admitting you're weak. You know what I mean? And that's the way they made it to us too at that time.
Sure.
Like they blatantly made it really clear, you're a weak-minded individual if you have PTSD, and that is not the case at all.
No.
It doesn't matter how strong of a person you are. It's just traumatic events.
I would go so far to say, as I've talked to a lot of combat veterans, partially on this channel, I've never met one that didn't have PTSD of some sort or another.
Right.
Even the ones that loved being there.
Right.
They still had PTSD.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just on a scientific level, because we'll go into, I'm a bodybuilder now, and I compete, and I've found some camaraderie in that's helped me as well.
I've competed as physique athlete.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely it's a different kind of camaraderie, but it's still got that brotherhood to it.
It does.
So that being said, on a scientific level, I actually started years ago. I think it was 2017. I went to a lady out in Spokane that started treating PTSD with TRT, testosterone therapy. And that's another thing that's helped me tremendously, because the way she explained it is, when you're at a heightened level of adrenaline for that long and for that many days in a row, when you finally come back to a normal level, you're not normal anymore, you're low. You know what I mean? And that affects your hormones too, because cortisol, when it's raised through the roof like that for high periods of time, drops testosterone.
Yep.
So a lot of these guys, they feel low energy and depressed and da-da-da. That's also not just from the PTSD and the traumatic events, but that's actually because your hormones are low and you need to be on like some kind of testosterone therapy. So that's another thing that's helped me tremendously.
What would you say to someone looking to, I would say, duplicate your path? Or let me rephrase that. Someone looking to serve the country in the military in a position that might lead to combat. What would you say is there a way to prepare them that will make suicide or other bad effects less or less likely?
I think, now this isn't proven or anything, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that there's nothing that you could prepare someone for that's like that, ever. But I feel like they could have done a better job of, instead of being like, hey, there's this thing called PTSD, if you get it, you're weak-minded, blah, 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 blah. I think if they would prepare them and be like, hey, 99% of you are going to come back and you're going to have some form of PTSD, and these are the symptoms you need to watch for, and this is what you need to watch for, and prepare you in that sense, like knowing that you're going to have it, I think that would change a lot, because then they can have set up programs, or even just kind of like, I don't want to use AA as an example, but like, you know how you have, what do they call it in AA when you have a sponsor?
So, yeah.
So when you get back, you have someone like a veteran that's been through it already. That could be your sponsor to help guide you through the process, because you're gonna, you know, like I said, it hit me in waves. Like, it was like I was good for like 6 months. Didn't even realize I was having symptoms till like 2 years later. And then I was like, oh, this is PTSD. So I feel like if not only are they explaining this to you before you go over it, but when you get back, you already have a sponsor that's going to help you, guide you through it. I think that would tremendously change people's lives.
Let me ask one question. Nick, when people say PTSD,
Yeah.
when people refer to PTSD, they always think about flashbacks. But what was PTSD in your case?
Oh, PTSD is a combination of a lot of things. So you go through these periods, when you're in combat like that for days at end, when you come back to a normal life, when you go outside, you don't think about anything. You know, a normal civilian, when they walk outside, they're like, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. They don't think about that. Before I leave the house to go to the grocery store, I'm thinking, okay, where's my handgun? Where's my extra ammunition? If something goes down, what's my plan? You know what I mean? When I get to the parking lot of the grocery store, I'm like, okay, where are my exits at? Like, if something happens, can I get out this way, that way, or the other? And then these are all things that go through our head before we even enter the grocery store. So you can only imagine, like, a normal person when they're like stressed out about, you know, their homework assignments. You know what I mean? So think of constantly every day when you go to do something, you have all this extra stuff that's going through your mind that you have to prepare for before you can even go on your mission. So that's like a huge part of having PTSD, is like, our brains don't work, or I shouldn't say they don't work. They work higher than most people's. We're thinking of every possibility that could happen when we go to do something.
No, because your life depended on doing it in combat.
Right, and that's what protected us and kept us alive. So just the simplest tasks are not simple anymore. You know what I mean? So like, I remember when I first got out, like, I couldn't even leave the house. Like, it was hard for me to leave the house. Mm-hmm. And if I did leave the house, like, I had to have my handgun with me, and then I still was having extreme anxiety, especially right away. And then, you know, I'm driving down the road, there's a piece of trash on the side of the road. I'm either turning down another road and going around, or I'm flipping a U-turn, like doing crazy things that people are like, yo, this guy's out of his mind. But in my head, it made sense. It's like, because when we were over there, they're hiding bombs in trash bags or dead animals. They'd have dogs on the side of the road. They would cut them open and literally put the bomb in the dog. Like, so like when I'm driving around, if I see anything on the side of the road, it's like instant, like my adrenaline goes up and I'm like, whew, you know. So it took me a while. I had a therapist that actually kind of helped me. I mean, she gave me like the foundation of where to start, but she would be like, okay, hey, don't leave your apartment. And mind you, they tell you to do these things, but at the same time, how are you supposed to? Because it took me until just last year for me to get PTSD on my disability and to be paid from the government for it. So, you know, they expect these guys to figure this out and still work a job, dude. Like, you can't work a job. And that's why most of these guys get to that point where they want to kill themselves. Because it's like, I'm trying to work on myself, but I can't, because you expect me to go make money in order to, you know what I mean? Like, I can't do both. Like, there's no way I can go be a member of society to make money and then try to deal with my stuff. Like, it's impossible. So this therapist was basically like, hey, start off with like 3 people that you like are really close with, that you trust. Have them over to your house for an hour. And like, I took baby steps like that. So I'd do that. And then she'd be like, if your anxiety gets too high, she's like, you're going to have anxiety, but if it gets too high, then, you know, just have them leave. And you slowly do stuff like that. And then more people, and like, then you work your way up to like 10 people that you really trust. And then we slowly worked on like getting outside. And then it'd be like, hey, go to the gas station. But go to the gas station at like 10 at night when there's not really any people at the gas station. And then, you know what I mean? And then we just progress that way. And eventually you get to the point, like, I'm still, till this day, I still have all those things. I just have, it's like reintegrating your body to know that there's not always going to be a threat. But you have to prove it to yourself. You can't just tell yourself, like, you have to prove it. You know what I mean? You have to go out and then go on a mission, see that there was no threat, come home. And you do that repeatedly, and eventually you get to the point where you're like, okay, like, yeah, I still think about all the things I used to think about, but now it doesn't give me that anxiety that like as much as it used to. Like I still have always that, I'm always aware of what's going on and I'm always paying attention. I'm always pretty hyper vigilant, but the amount of anxiety and stress that I have when I go out is a lot less than it used to be, to the point where like I can function. You know what I mean? Before I wasn't functioning. You know what I mean?
What are you doing? What is your relationship with other combat veterans today?
We all stay in touch quite a bit. The guys that I was over there with, like I was telling you before we started recording, but there's one of my sergeants, Sergeant Merced, passed away just back in February, and it was a sad situation, but it was nice because I hadn't seen a lot of my buddies in 13 years, but when we got back together, it was like not a day had passed, and it's like we still all communicate. We got a group chat that we all talk like daily, joke around like we used to back when we were in, super dark humor and all that stuff. So we stay in touch that way, but we actually, when we were there in Surf City at the Airbnb, we all decided, we were like, man, the amount of relief, and like, that's the first time in probably 13 years that my anxiety was completely gone, because I have 13 guys with me that I was in combat with that I can trust with my life, and I felt no stress in it. Like we would literally go, like we went out the one day just to get like lunch, at this seafood place right on the beach, and like I just couldn't even remember like feeling that way ever, because it was like the first time I've ever gone out to eat where I wasn't like super, like hyper vigilant and stressed out, because I knew with those guys I ain't got to worry about a thing.
So it shows that being surrounded, even in a bad environment, by people you trust, is one of the secrets to defeating this.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you can definitely, I feel like we all talked about it, and it stinks that we're all across the country, because it's like, I feel like if we could do that on a daily, I can only imagine, the life we could live.
My SEAL buddy points out that the SEAL veterans who can afford to live in San Diego or Norfolk, don't have these problems, or don't have them very much, because there's others around.
They still have that.
The ones who are here, or in Sioux Falls, they have problems.
Right.
I really appreciate this. It's humbling for me to talk to a hero.
Well, I appreciate that.
I want to thank you for my audience, but thank you for myself, and thank you for the other veterans and combat veterans that I talk to, and other first responders that have stressful and things like that. For providing me greater insight, for opening your heart, and for talking to the audience.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here.
Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and we'll see you next time.